Hello. Last time we discussed sheet music and how you can add your notes onto the music, and this time we're going to look at something a little bit more sophisticated, and that is sound design. So I have here two instruments, and we're going to look at designing the sound for instrument one. And to do that, we just go to the sound design screen. So click sound design and it shows you basically the two instruments. Let me move these way over to the edge here. And basically sound is made up of waves or sound waves or pressure waves in the air of specific volume or amplitude and specific frequencies, number of waves per second typically. And that changes over time. So the volume changes, the frequency changes, all of that can change. The notes on the music sheet basically tells the system here when to start the note and when to end the note. And the sound design screen that I'm about to get into will basically describe how this sound changes its volume, frequency, and so on over time during that note. So as you can see, we can move these instruments anywhere on the screen, and the way we design the sound is first we give it a wave. So I right click and create a new wave, and let me move that way over here. So this is a typical sine wave. Think of it as a water wave. Same concept, except here it's pressure waves in the air. And then we have an oscillator. Again, right click, new oscillator. Here it is. And again, you can move these. Now, you may notice there's little angles here on the left and right. And this is the output, whereas these are the inputs. Here's an output and here's an input. So we can basically connect these together. So the wave, I can click and drag here and connect it to the wave of the oscillator. And the output of the oscillator can be connected to the instrument. And I can move these guys anywhere I want. Alright, and I can move these connector lines to get around things as much as I want. Okay, so fairly flexible. Now, many of the synthesizers that I've seen out there tend to look like the hardware synthesizer, the keyboards with all the buttons up at the top that control the various shape of sound and so on. In developing this software, I looked at that and I said, well, why? Why are there, why do these things look like the hardware, and why do software synthesizers have only 3 oscillators or only have 4 oscillators? On this particular design, I did it so you could have as many oscillators as you want. Literally thousands, millions, billions of them if you want. Same thing with waves, same thing with instruments. Of course, if you have millions of these things, there's a small chance that, well, okay, a big chance that this is going to function very slowly and the sound is going to be choppy and so on. But when you generate the sound in batch mode, so again, let me go to my piano roll here, and if I generate the wave instead of playing it, then it will take its time and generate the wave 100% correct, regardless of the power of your computer. It might take an hour to generate a 1-minute piece of music, but it will generate it accurately. So again, this is probably just an issue if you have millions of different oscillators and so on. So completely unlimited, uh, and you can uh, arrange them on the screen here to show the flow from left to right, the wave being repeated by this oscillator to generate the sound for this instrument. Okay, and the frequency is determined in this case by the note. You could generate it or generate the sound or iterate through the waves based on the beats per minute or a specified frequency if you want to, so it's going to be fixed. So there's various options here that I'm not going to go through right this minute. I can rename these boxes. So if I right click, I can say that this is called a piano, for example. There it is. This is going to be, I don't know, something. There it is. So I can give it names. Don't have to for the instruments. It's a good idea so that when you go to your list of instruments here, you can see the names. All right, I can select objects by clicking on them. I can click it again to unselect, or if I click with the Shift key, it selects that object and all of its descendants to the left. Okay, so again, Shift click will unselect the objects. If I select a bunch of objects, I can then hold down the Alt key and move the whole group together. Okay, so if I go here, Alt, and now I'm just moving these two. And now that I have this sine wave attached to my piano, I can press the key, the P key on my keyboard to play, the P for play, not P for piano. And it plays the notes. Let's go back again. If I hit the P key, it plays those notes. All right, but the notes again are not very interesting. It's just a sine wave at the given frequency. So let me change this sound a little bit using some additional options. Create a new oscillator and a new wave, and let me link these two together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this oscillator change the amplitude. That's what the AM is for, amplitude modulation. It will change the amplitude of this wave, and I'm going to have it do that based on the envelope of the note. So think of a note as being put in an envelope, a paper envelope. So it wraps the envelope or wraps the note. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the wave here from a sine wave to what's called an ADSR, and I'm going to explain that in a moment. Now when I play this, sounds a little bit better. Let me open up this wave and show you what it looks like. So I can click on the bottom half here versus the top half. The top half, as you can see, changes the decay. Bottom half opens up the wave full screen. I can use the plus and minus key to zoom in and zoom out. And as you can see, I can move these various points up and down any way I want. If I hit the P key again, versus, let me increase this volume a little bit more. And if I move this over here, it sounds a bit more of a pluck. In other words, this will go to maximum volume as soon as the note starts. It holds that volume, and then after a quarter second, then it starts to fade slowly until I release the key. So this is the end of the note. So think of a piano. You hit the piano key here, it goes through this, and eventually, as I'm holding the key, it will start to fade away. And then when I let go of the key, then it fades away quite fast. So I can make it fade even faster, hold it much longer, and let's try this. I can also add additional points. Right click, add, and just for fun, let's do this. Why not? Now hit play. Notice how it kind of hiccups a little bit. And let me move this a little different. And let me change this decay, sustained decay here, so that it will decay 100% per second. Oops, let's try that. Okay, so you could actually make the sound volume change any way you want. Let me add another point like this. Why not do something like that? Okay, so it does a bit of a hiccup at the beginning. I can click on this wave in between 2 points to change the way the corners are for the wave. Click, it's a straight line. If I click it, now it flattens at the top, but it's still a straight line at the bottom. Click it again, flatten at the bottom, straight line at the top, and click it again, and it's a flat at both ends. So you can control the way the sound looks. Okay, so you can shape the volume of the wave as you wish. Let me get out of this. So here is my wave that controls the envelope for the amplitude of the sound. Now instead of a sine wave, I could also put a triangle wave. And there is a triangle wave. Let's hear that. And I can change the way the wave is organized. Let me play that. Okay, so I can change it to change the sound. And you'll notice there's a little input here. So that means I could create another oscillator with some other wave to control how this moves back and forth. Okay, just like down here, I can control the amplitude of this wave that controls the amplitude of this wave. So I can make all of these changes to the system. I can change this wave to be square wave. Okay, again. I could change it to white noise. Doesn't sound very interesting, but you can do things with white noise. For example, simulate a hi-hat on a drum kit. Hi-hat is that little cymbal with a pedal on it, or other symbols as well with white noise. Okay, I could change this to be a custom wave. And very similar to the ADSR here, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, ADSR is stands for attack, decay, sustain, and release. That's the different parts of the keyboard, of the key on a piano, for example. So here for this custom wave, I can make it do all kinds of stuff. Let me add another point here and another one here, and now I can make it do all kinds of weird things. Okay. Okay, let me change this. Do something like that. So you can play around with this, change the wave any way you want. Okay, let me close that. So change the wave, you can change the volume, and there's FM here for frequency modulation that I'm not going to go into, but you can change the frequency of the waves as well on top of what the note predicts. Let me add a couple more things here. A control, for example, I can put that here, and I'll change the amplitude of this. Okay, let me show you 100% what it sounds like. And now I can take this down. So I'm changing the volume of the volume control. So it's like two volume controls in a row. So this is one type of control. Let me rearrange my screen here. You can do this anytime, of course, to move some of these boxes around because I want to add a few more boxes. And let me add another oscillator and another wave. This one is going to be white noise. Put that over here. White noise goes here. And then I'm going to add something called a mixer. Here it is. Let me start here. Click, drag to this. Click, drag to there. So now I basically have two different things. Notice this one is called something. Yeah, let's give this one a name. Noise. There you go. Let's put this one 100%. Put that one over there. Now, this one input can only take one thing. So when I drop this, the other arrow will go away. Okay? So this thing is actually a mixer. As you would expect, it mixes these two sounds together. And now when I play it, interesting. Let me add a new oscillator and a new wave. And so. Change the amplitude. This is going to be again an envelope for the note. So I'm basically mixing two different sounds here. And this ADSR will be a very short, add another point. This one will go right down to 0. All right. Now, play. So there's that little white noise just at the beginning of the note. And I can change how long it lasts. Maybe do something like this. Play. So you just have that little puff of white noise at the very beginning. I can increase the volume of the noise. Sounds like I'm hitting a drum with one of those little broomsticks. So there you go. This is basics of sound design. There's a lot of stuff I didn't talk about here. You can, of course, get quite busy with a lot of different oscillators and waves very quickly. What else can I say? There's, of course, I didn't do anything with the second instrument, but I could add sound for that. There's many different components that I have not created yet that I will create hopefully soon, like filters to change the frequency response, a lot like the bass and treble knobs you have on a typical stereo system. You can create those in here. I haven't built them yet. And then there are things like number of voices and compressors and all kinds of other things that you can do with sound. So anyway, so there you go. This is basic sound design. Hope you enjoyed.